Welcome back to Bookcast Story Channel, your go-to space for insightful stories that spark change and growth. Today, we're uncovering the hidden truths behind habits with Bookcast number 3, Procrastination, the Undercover Religion Stealing Your Life. Join us as we explore this fascinating topic with curiosity and kindness, unlocking new ways to reclaim your time and purpose.
Yeah, and it's more than just a topic, isn't it? It feels almost like a universal epidemic sometimes, but it's often disguised as just, a personality quirk.
Oh, that's just how I am.
Exactly. But when we look at the source material for this deep dive, this idea of procrastination being an undercover religion, wow, that's incredibly apt. It really gets to the heart of it.
How so? What does that religion part really mean here?
Well, it describes this deep-rooted mechanism, right? A sort of quiet, subconscious set of rules we follow. Rules where we willingly, maybe unknowingly, sacrifice our future potential, our big goals.
For what?
For immediate comfort.
Yeah.
For short-term ease.
Yeah.
Just making today feel a bit less difficult.
That framing, an undercover religion, it really does demand a closer look, doesn't it? Because religion implies, well, demotion, maybe rituals, and definitely sacrifice.
Precisely. And we are sacrificing something huge. We're dedicating our long-term success, our energy, even our opportunities, basically laying them on the altar of making today easier or doing it later.
So if procrastination feels bigger than just a simple bad habit for you listening, if it feels almost like something you, worship unknowingly, maybe even against your better judgment, you're definitely not alone.
Not at all. It's this quiet, steady erosion. It's the cumulative effect, you see. All those tiny daily delays. They seem harmless one by one.
Yeah, like hitting snooze just one more time.
Right. But add them up, and they slowly, almost invisibly, divert your life onto a completely different track than the one you consciously want to be on. It's often less about a lack of motivation and much more about a fundamental conflict in our internal operating system.
Okay. So before we really dive into the science behind it, the strategies, and the very real cost of this delay, let's just start with a moment of honest reflection.
Oh, idea.
For everyone listening, just think about your goals right now. What is one thing you've postponed? Maybe a small, nagging task, maybe a bigger ambition, something that quietly deep down really matters to you.
Yeah, hold on to that thought. Keep it central as we unpack the core mechanics of why we delay, why we get stuck in this pattern.
Okay, let's get into those core ideas. Why does procrastination feel so much like a religion? Where does that power come from?
Well, to really understand why it feels almost like a faith, we first have to confront this paradox, really, that comes up in the source material. It's about the surprising link between intelligence and delay.
Wait, intelligence and delay, that sounds completely backwards. You'd think being smarter would make you better at planning and, getting things done.
You would think so. It's very counterintuitive. But the research suggests that highly intelligent individuals often find themselves struggling with procrastination more often, or perhaps more intensely, than their less reflective counterparts.
Why? How does that even work? More brain power should mean better execution, shouldn't it?
Well, it seems the brain uses its sophistication, its cleverness, to build these really elaborate defenses against discomfort. That's the key. Avoiding discomfort.
Ah, okay.
So for an intelligent person, procrastination often isn't just laziness. It's actually a high-level, pretty sophisticated defense mechanism. When you're faced with a task that's complex or high stakes or maybe just really uncertain, the intelligent brain tends to overthink. It overanalyzes.
And catastrophizes a bit.
Exactly. Critically, it exaggerates the potential risks. It can spin out all these what-if scenarios.
Okay, so it's like paralysis by analysis, but weaponized by your own brain against starting.
That's a great way to put it. Weaponized analysis. Instead of facing the vulnerability of just starting something, maybe failing, maybe looking foolish, the brain manufactures this perfectly logical-sounding argument for not acting yet.
Right. I just need to research this one more thing.
Or the timing isn't quite perfect, or
Uh-huh.
I need to understand all 37 potential pitfalls before I even take step one. It's like having this internal lawyer constantly arguing to the jury, which is you, that you're not ready.
Wow.
And by formulating these sharp, logical-sounding excuses, you can rationally justify delaying. You're essentially, in effect, worshiping the idea of not ready yet. It gives you this false sense of control while protecting you from the emotional sting of feeling inadequate or vulnerable.
That sounds, frankly, exhausting, constantly battling your own intelligence.
It is, and it's this very sophisticated self-deception that really solidifies the faith in this undercover religion of delay. It makes it feel necessary, almost rational.
Okay, that makes more sense now. So let's look at the pillars that hold this structure up. The outline mentions 3 mandatory focus points that make delay feel so intrinsic, so much a part of us.
Right. The first pillar is identity. This is huge. It's that fundamental belief, often actually spoken out loud. Oh, I'm just a procrastinator.
Yeah, we hear that all the time, or say it ourselves.
Exactly. And once you adopt that label, delay stops being just a temporary behavior, something you do, and it becomes an intrinsic trait, something you are.
It defines you.
It defines you. And every past failure, every missed deadline just becomes more proof that the label is true. Delay becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's actually, weirdly, a comfortable definition of self, even though it's highly restrictive.
Comfortable because it lowers expectations. It removes the pressure to actually change.
Precisely. If
Yeah.
that's just who I am, then trying to be different feels futile, maybe even inauthentic. So the identity is set.
And once that identity is locked in, then come the rituals, right? The predictable routines that reinforce the whole belief system.
Yes, the rituals follow naturally. The primary ones are pretty classic. Delay, distract, and then that final panicked rush for the deadline.
The adrenaline-fueled all-nighter.
The classic. The entire cycle, though, is subconsciously designed. Its purpose is to protect us from the sustained pain of effort, the discomfort of the long haul.
So we trade long-term growth for short-term avoidance.
Exactly. We substitute true growth, which is often messy, uncertain, and uncomfortable, for the perceived safety of the old confined comfort zone. Even if that comfort zone is actually pretty miserable. We're actively performing these rituals, checking emails, scrolling social media, finding urgent small tasks, specifically to avoid the very things that would lead to real fulfillment.
Wow. Okay, so we have the identity, I am this way, the rituals, delay, distract, rush. What's the third pillar?
The third pillar is the set of dangerous beliefs we cling to. That internal narrative that tells us somehow this destructive behavior is actually functional.
Like what kind of beliefs?
Well, probably the most common and maybe the most dangerous is the myth. I work best under pressure.
Oh, yeah.
That one's huge.
It's huge. And it's so seductive because it seems to justify the entire procrastination cycle. It validates the avoidance. You wait. And wait until urgency, the sheer terror of imminent failure, is the only possible motivator left.
So you're relying on stress chemicals, basically?
Yes.
Adrenaline, cortisol.
Exactly. You're relying on chemicals, stressors, on panic, rather than strategic, deliberate action that builds sustainable success and, frankly, feels a lot better in the long run. You are literally conditioning your body and brain to link performance only with panic.
That can't be good long term.
It's terrible long term. It burns you out, increases anxiety, and often leads to lower quality work anyway, despite the belief.
So sticking to these pillars, the identity, the rituals, the beliefs, the cost isn't just missed deadlines or lower quality work. The source material talks about something deeper, the hidden cost. Poverty of potential. We should probably spend a bit of time on this because it sounds quite profound.
It really is. We usually think of poverty in, monetary terms.
Mm.
Lack of money, lack of resource.
Right, financial poverty. But the argument here is that the truest, perhaps most damaging form of poverty is often a lack of potential, a poverty of experience that's directly caused by this perpetual inaction, this constant delay.
How does that work? How does delaying one task lead to poverty of potential?
Think about it cumulatively. Every single time you consciously pause, say, scrolling through your phone over reading a chapter of that book that can build a skill, or watching another episode instead of outlining that business plan, or just general convenience over deliberate, necessary effort.
You're making a tiny withdrawal.
You're making a tiny withdrawal from your future self. You're slowly draining your pool of opportunities. You're diminishing your capacity to develop. You're depleting your vital energy, your cheek, if you like.
So it's not like one big dramatic bank robbery of your potential. It's more like death by 1,000 paper cuts, a constant slow leak.
That's a perfect analogy. A constant drip, drip, drip of missed interest. You lose the compounding returns on effort. It's not just that you didn't read the book today. It's that you didn't get the insight from that book today that might have sparked an idea, that might have unlocked a conversation, that might have led to the promotion 3 years from now.
Right, you missed the first domino, so the whole chain reaction never even starts.
Exactly. You pay this invisible opportunity tax every time you delay. And this continuous choice for the easier, low-energy option. It brings us right to the core conflict driving this whole dynamic, the internal war. Instinct versus reason.
Okay, let's break down these two systems in the brain that are apparently at war.
Right. So first, we have what Nobel laureate Daniel Kahneman called System 1. This is our instinctive brain. It's primal, ancient. It's wired for immediate survival.
Lizard brain, basically.
Pretty much. It seeks immediate gratification, quick rewards, and crucially, it avoids difficulty at all costs. Because in our evolutionary past, difficulty often meant high-energy expenditure, or maybe even danger. So System 1 wants comfort now, and it operates automatically with a very low energy cost.
Okay, that's System 1. Easy, fast, instinctive. What's System 2?
System 2 is the newer part, evolutionarily speaking. It's our rational brain, located primarily in the prefrontal cortex. This is the part that governs higher-level thinking. Planning, logic, self-control. It's literally the voice of the future self within us.
The one that knows we should go to the gym or work on the report.
Exactly. But here's the catch. System 2 requires significant high-grade energy to operate. Maintaining commitment, making complex long-term decisions, pursuing difficult goals. That takes real mental effort.
And the struggle is?
The struggle is that System 1, the easy way out system, often wins. It overrides System 2, especially when we're stressed, tired, hungry, or emotionally vulnerable.
When our resources are low.
Precisely. The default path, the path of least resistance, wins almost every time in those conditions. And that leads right back to that stagnation we talked about, the poverty of potential. System 1 just wants to conserve energy and avoid pain now.
Okay, so if we accept that we're not just lazy, but we're actually caught in this biological internal conflict, what are the hidden causes that keep fueling System 1's victory? You mentioned fear and dopamine earlier.
Yes, fear and perfectionism are probably the primary psychological drivers pushing us away from action. The fear of discipline itself, just the sheer effort involved, or the fear of sustained effort over time. Or maybe the fear that the finished product won't be perfect, that it won't meet our own or others' expectations.
That fear feels bigger in the moment.
It feels bigger and more immediate in the moment than the potential reward of some distant success. That future reward feels abstract, while the fear or discomfort feels very real right now.
And perfectionism, how does that fit in?
Perfectionism is perhaps the greatest enemy of action. We tell ourselves we're just being thorough, we're preparing, we're analyzing.
Yeah.
But often, we're just analyzing endlessly until the perfect moment, which never arrives, passes us by. It's just a sophisticated strategy to avoid the vulnerability inherent in actually creating something and putting something out there that might be judged.
So fear pushes us away from the hard, important tasks.
Right. And while fear is pushing us away, dopamine loops are actively pulling us toward the easy, distracting things.
The chemistry of procrastination. Tell us about that.
It's incredibly powerful. Our body, our brain chemistry, actually reinforces easy, pleasurable, low-effort actions. Think about refreshing your social media feed, or checking email constantly, or watching short, entertaining videos.
Instant gratification.
Instant, powerful, short-term hits of dopamine. That's the brain's reward chemical. So the brain quickly learns, hey, delaying that hard, high-value work and opting for this easy, low-value pleasure, that feels good. Let's do that again.
You create this feedback loop.
You create a deeply ingrained neural matrix, a habit loop, that literally rewards avoidance. And this makes the right thing, the hard, essential work that actually moves your life forward, feel like painful resistance by comparison. We are, in a very real sense, neurologically incentivized to delay.
Wow. Okay, that paints a pretty compelling picture of the internal battle. But the source material also emphasizes widening the lens, looking beyond just our individual brains. It talks about the environment, calling some surroundings a procrastination factory.
Yes, and this is such a critical insight, often overlooked. Procrastination isn't always just an internal character flaw or a personal failing. Sometimes, maybe often, it's a perfectly logical, even necessary response to a toxic or draining environment.
How does the environment create procrastination?
Think about your brain's energy budget. If your brain is constantly forced to expend vast amounts of its resources simply to cope with its immediate physical surroundings, filtering out noise, navigating clutter, dealing with interruptions, it has practically zero energy left over for that effortful, complex, strategic thinking required by System 2.
So the environment drains the tank needed for focus and planning.
Precisely. The texts specifically describe a chaotic and turbulent environment.
What does that look like?
Well, it could be an environment that's physically disorganized, cluttered, maybe visually overwhelming, or it could be loud, full of constant interruptions. Even poor lighting can contribute a dark, gloomy space.
Right. It's hard to feel motivated and clear-headed in a messy, dark room.
Exactly. Your brain is expending energy just managing the visual noise, filtering out the chaos, resisting all the potential distractions. It leaves no quiet headspace, no mental bandwidth for planning deep work, for creative thought. The mind simply lacks the peace and the resources it needs to commit to something complex and demanding.
And this ties into an older concept mentioned in the sources, the idea of qi, or life energy, applied to motivation.
Yeah, the idea of stagnant qi is drawing on principles from things like feng shui, but the psychological parallel is strong. Environments that are characterized by clutter, darkness, maybe dampness, general disarray, they tend to lead to a feeling of emotional heaviness, physical fatigue, a kind of loss of vitality or life force.
So a stagnant environment breeds stagnant energy in us.
That's the idea. Action, progress, motivation. These are equated with flowing qi, with energy in motion. Delay, procrastination, feeling stuck. These are seen as direct symptoms of blockage in our environment and consequently within ourselves. You can't really expect a dynamic, motivated mindset if you're living and working in an environment of literal stagnation and entropy.
That makes intuitive sense. What about the non-physical environment? The sources mention negative programming from outside influences.
Ah, yes, this is the final, often insidious environmental factor. These are the unconscious limitations, the beliefs we absorb from our family, our community, maybe even society at large. Sometimes they're well-meaning, but limiting nonetheless.
Like what kind of message?
Things like, oh, don't dream too big, stay realistic, or that's too hard for people like us, or maybe just focus on being stable and safe, don't take risks.
The play it safe mentality.
Exactly. These limiting beliefs, often absorbed unquestioningly when we're young, act like persistent negative reinforcement. They solidify self-doubt. They subtly push us back into the familiar, maybe cramped, but known comfort zone whenever we try to stretch. If the world around you is constantly telling you that your aspirations are too risky or foolish, System 1 has a very easy argument for delay, doesn't it?
Yeah.
See? They agree. Better wait.
Wow. Okay. Putting all that together, the internal battle, the fear, the dopamine, the environmental drains, the negative programming, it really reframes procrastination, doesn't it? It's less a simple moral failure and more like a complex, sometimes necessary survival strategy against a world internal and external that feels hostile to effort or progress.
It really does. And it explains why sheer willpower, just telling yourself try harder, so often fails. The forces pushing you towards delay are systemic and powerful.
Makes perfect sense. Which leads us nicely to our next question for you listening. Which belief about your productivity, maybe that idea that you work best under pressure, or perhaps the feeling that you always need more information before starting, which one do you find yourself clinging to most tightly?
Yeah, reflecting on that core belief can be really revealing.
All right, so we've painted a picture of why we procrastinate, the depth of this mechanism. Now let's pivot to the solutions. How do we actually break free? You mentioned it's not just about willpower.
Absolutely not. The shift we need to make, based on this understanding, is away from trying to brute force change with willpower, which we know is finite and unreliable, especially when we're stressed, and moving towards a more strategic approach. Rewriting our internal operating system.
Reprogramming, essentially.
Exactly. Reprogramming requires a multi-tiered intervention, addressing the different layers of the problem. We have to systematically reduce the activation energy needed to just start. We need strategies that make taking action more automatic, requiring as little mental friction, as little System 2 effort as possible.
Okay, so where do we begin? What's the first tier?
Tier 1 is all about designing the microbehavior, making the action itself incredibly small and manageable. And the foundation here, absolutely essential, is the 2-minute start.
The 2-minute rule. I think I've heard of this.
It's incredibly powerful because it directly exploits a vulnerability in System 1, in that instant gratification mechanism. The goal is to make the initial task so ridiculously small, so non-threatening, that your brain literally cannot justify spending the energy required to resist it.
Give me an example.
Okay, so instead of aiming to write the whole report, your 2-minute start is just open the file and type one single sentence. That's it. Or don't aim to exercise for 30 minutes. The goal is just put on your workout shoes.
That seems almost too simple.
That's the beauty of it. It's so simple that resistance feels absurd. The 2-minute action tricks your brain into moving past that initial, often paralyzing pain barrier of starting. And what often happens is once you're in motion, inertia takes over. Starting is the hardest part.
Okay, I can see that. Get the ball rolling, even just an inch. What's next in Tier 1?
Once we're potentially moving, we need clarity. This is where focusing only on the next visible step comes in.
Why visible?
Because vague, large goals are overwhelming. They immediately trigger that System 2 paralysis, that feeling of, where do I even begin? If your goal is something huge, like launch a successful online business, well, that's paralyzing.
Right, too big.
So you break it down. What's the very next concrete, visible step you can take?
Yeah.
Maybe it's simply search GoDaddy for available domain names.
Yeah.
If the goal is clean the entire garage, the next visible step might be move that hammer from the floor onto the workbench. Just one small, clear action.
So eliminate vagueness, eliminate the overwhelm.
Exactly. You eliminate the energy wasted just figuring out what to do next. Make it obvious.
Makes sense. We also need to manage when we act, moving away from relying on feeling inspired. The outline mentions the time box.
Yes, the time box. This is about shifting from emotional whims to structural commitment. We rely far too much on that fleeting feeling of, oh, I feel like doing it now, or I'll do it when I feel motivated.
Which often means never.
Often means never. A time box removes emotion from the equation entirely. It means setting fixed, specific, non-negotiable times for these small actions, treating them like a mandatory appointment with your most important client, which is your future self.
So not, I'll work on the budget sometime this afternoon if I feel up to it.
No, it's at exactly 8:15 a.m. tomorrow, I will open the budget spreadsheet and work on it for 25 minutes, period, regardless of my mood. This shifts the decision away from the fickle System 1, do I feel like it, and makes it a structural commitment handled by System 2. It's scheduled, so I do it.
Like brushing your teeth. You don't wait for inspiration.
Perfect example. It becomes part of the routine, and that structure is powerfully supported by the next step, friction design. This is about actively engineering your environment.
Engineering it how?
Engineering it to make the desired action ridiculously easy to start and the distracting actions ridiculously hard to do. It's the art of manipulating friction.
Give me some examples of friction design.
Okay. Want to read more before bed instead of scrolling? Physically place the book on your pillow, maybe open to the first page, make it the easiest thing to grab. Want to stop mindlessly checking your phone, maybe implement app blocking software during work hours, or, more radically, move your phone charger outside the bedroom entirely.
Ooh, that's a tough one for many people.
It is, but think about the friction. If you have to physically get out of bed and walk to another room to get your phone, you're much less likely to grab it the moment you wake up or if you wake in the night. You're physically removing the easy access for System 1 to get its quick dopamine hit from the phone.
So you're making the good habit low friction and the bad habit high friction.
Precisely. You're using environmental design to support your rational brain's intentions.
Okay, 2-minute start, next visible step, time box friction design. What's the last part of Tier 1?
The final piece is identity microproof. This ties back to that first pillar of procrastination, the identity of I'm a procrastinator. We need to actively rewrite that belief.
How do we provide proof against our own negative identity?
Through small, repeated, immediate wins. You need to prove to yourself consistently that you are actually someone who starts. The sources suggest doing this first thing in the morning, before you check any device, before System 1 gets its usual dose of external stimuli.
Do what?
Complete 1 or 2 small, fixed tasks. Maybe it's making your bed. Maybe it's cleaning off your workspace for the day, preparing a healthy lunch, or simply listing your top 3 non-negotiable goals for the day. Something small, but intentional and productive.
So you start the day with a win, basically.
Exactly. You build powerful momentum right out of the gate. You establish a sense of self-efficacy, proving I am capable of action before the distractions and potential derailments of the day even begin. It sets a completely different standard of action for the rest of the day.
That Tier 1 toolkit feels really practical and actionable. Micro behaviors. Okay, what's Tier 2? It's called the 15-minute ritual to cut the evil current. Sounds intense.
It's about laying a more serious foundation of discipline, something to really disrupt that old neural matrix of delay. The first component is building on that morning microproof. the morning action.
How is this different?
It's slightly more substantial, but still short. The key is before checking anything electronic. No email, no news, no social media. Why? Because those things instantly activate the System 1 dopamine loop and put you in a reactive mode for the rest of the day.
So before the screens, you do.
You complete one small but important task that takes 15 minutes or less. Maybe it's a brisk 20-step walk outside just to get moving. Maybe it's a 10-minute planning session, mapping out your day's priorities. Maybe it's completing one single critical email or correspondence that you've been putting off.
So you architect an immediate conscious victory.
Yes, a victory that proves to your brain, first thing, that you are in control of your attention and your actions, not your impulses or your inbox.
Okay. And the second part of this Tier 2 ritual, the daily critical task.
This requires ruthless prioritization. You must identify one and only one truly important goal for the day. Not 3, not 5, just one.
Why only one?
Because focus is key. Spreading yourself too thin guarantees that the most important thing might get pushed aside. This task should be challenging, something that moves the needle on your major goals, but still achievable within the day. And the rule is, you ensure its completion, ideally before getting bogged down in less important stuff.
And there's a time commitment mentioned here, 90 days.
Yes. The key is the consistency. Commit to identifying and completing that one critical task every single day for 90 consecutive days. That duration, about 3 months, is generally considered long enough to deeply dismantle those old neural habits of delay and avoidance.
And build new ones.
And establish a profound, undeniable sense of confidence and discipline. It takes you past that initial hump of resistance where it feels hard, and into the phase where the new behavior starts to feel more automatic, more consolidated.
Which leads us right into Tier 3. Sustained neuroreprogramming, making the change stick.
Exactly. Because new behaviors, new neural pathways are incredibly fragile in the beginning, maybe for the first month or so. They haven't solidified yet.
So we need repetition.
Consistent repetition. The science varies slightly, but generally suggests that new habits need to be repeated continuously for at least 21 days, and more ideally, somewhere between 60 and 90 days, like that daily critical task time frame, to fully consolidate into new, efficient neural pathways in the brain.
So the action has to become automatic, like a reflex.
That's the goal. It needs to become less reliant on that highly unstable, fleeting emotional state we call motivation or inspiration, and more driven by discipline and structure. Discipline truly is the bridge from where you are now to where you want to be. It makes action consistent even when motivation wanes.
Okay, these tiers build nicely, but doing all this requires energy. The final part of the strategy is holistic support, right? Nourishing the whole system.
Absolutely crucial. You can't run a high-performance operating system on low-grade fuel or in a depleted state. So first, you need to nourish your chi, your basic energy.
How do we do that practically?
It's the fundamentals, often overlooked but non-negotiable. Deep, conscious breathing throughout the day. Light, daily movement doesn't have to be intense, just consistent. Clean, unprocessed food as much as possible, and crucially, consistently getting sufficient high-quality sleep. When you're physically depleted, guess who wins the internal war?
System 1, every time.
Every single time. So energy is foundational. Then you need to nourish your mind, your focus.
How?
Prioritize deep reading, not just skimming articles or social media feeds, but sustained linear attention to complex ideas, like reading a physical book. This trains your focus muscle. And commit to even just 10 minutes of daily meditation or quiet reflection. This helps cultivate internal peace and counters the constant external chaos and stimulation.
Energy, mind. And the last one is spirit, or purpose.
This involves some potentially tough choices. It's about aggressive pruning, actively cutting off toxic information streams, maybe news sources that just make you anxious or angry, cutting off negative, draining influences or relationships where possible.
Protecting your mental and emotional space.
Exactly. And actively cultivating and maintaining a bright, forward-looking outlook, focusing on possibilities, on gratitude, on your why. You simply cannot sustain the high level of action required for significant growth and change if you're constantly surrounded by pessimism, low energy, cynicism, or negativity. It drags you back down.
Wow. Tiers 1, 2, and 3 provide a really powerful strategic blueprint. It goes way beyond just generic advice like make a to-do list.
It has to be systemic to overcome a systemic problem.
Definitely. So this brings us to another point for reflection for everyone listening. Thinking about these tools, what small action, maybe a 2-minute start, maybe identifying the next visible step, what small action could you take today that your future self will genuinely thank you for?
Yeah, just one small thing. What would it be?
Okay, we've got the tools. But sometimes, even with the best tools, Our mindset gets in the way. Let's talk about gentle reframes and long-term strategy, shifting how we think about things. The first one is crucial, moving from perfection to progress.
Yes, this is huge because, as we discussed, perfectionism is such a major driver of procrastination. It sets an impossible standard and makes starting feel terrifying.
So how do we reframe that internal pressure, that voice saying, it has to be perfect or it's worthless?
We need to consciously change the monitoring question we ask ourselves. We have to stop asking that high-pressure, often paralyzing question, is it finished yet? And is it perfect?
And replace it with?
Replace it with a process-focused, non-judgmental question like, how far have I moved forward today? Or simply, did I make progress? This simple shift does wonders. It starts valuing continuous effort over some intimidating, distant final result.
So it acknowledges that quality actually emerges through doing, through iteration.
Exactly. It embraces the idea that the first draft, the draft zero, is supposed to be imperfect. Action itself becomes the greatest source of learning and improvement. Giving yourself permission to be imperfect, especially at the start, is key to building momentum.
Okay, that's a powerful reframe. Next up, dealing with that feeling of overwhelm by reframing it into strategic chunking. And this is where the outline mentions a specific tool, the 3-year vision map. That sounds important for long-term motivation.
It really is. Overwhelm often comes from looking at the entire mountain we need to climb. The 3-year vision map helps break it down and connects present action to future outcomes.
How does it work?
First, you visualize your major goals across key areas of your life, maybe health, career, finances, relationships, as if you have succeeded 3 years from now. Get really clear and specific about what that desirable future looks like and feels like.
Okay, so you create the compelling future vision first.
Yes, make it vivid. Then, once that's clear, you introduce the really powerful, sharp question. Okay, looking at this desirable future, if I don't act on this critical task right here, right now, what specific opportunities, what wealth, what health improvements will I definitively lose in those 3 years?
Oof, that hits differently than just focusing on the game. You focus on the loss caused by inaction.
Precisely. It's leveraging loss aversion.
Yeah.
Psychologically, we're often more motivated to avoid a loss than we are to achieve an equivalent gain. So, by making the future cost of inaction feel immediate and tangible, the compounding returns you'll miss, the skills you won't develop, the time you can't get back, it acts like a sharp sword cutting through the immediate appeal of delay.
You make the distant consequence feel painful now.
Exactly. It short-circuits System 1's desire for immediate comfort by highlighting an immediate future pain.
Very clever. Okay, and the third reframe addresses the common excuse of low energy, reframing reliance on fickle inspiration into the consistency of small rituals.
Right. We touched on this with the time box, but it's a fundamental mindset shift. We have to stop waiting for the muse to strike. Stop waiting to feel like it.
Because inspiration is unreliable.
Totally unreliable. It's a lovely bonus when it happens, but it's fleeting and unpredictable. Discipline, however, manifested through those small, strategic, pre-decided rituals that is reliable. Action has to be based on clear, fixed planning and discipline, not on your unstable, mood-dependent whims.
So the moment you catch yourself saying, I'll do it later when I feel more motivated?
That's the exact moment you need to recognize System 1 taking over. And you need to deploy the structure, the ritual, the 2-minute start, whatever it takes to override it. A structure dictates behavior far more reliably than fleeting feelings do.
Got it. Now, we also need to face a potentially harsh reality mentioned in the sources. The increasing financial cost of delay in the new era. How is procrastination more costly now?
Well, the pace of change, particularly with technology like AI, global competition, it's just accelerating dramatically. In this kind of environment, standing still or even just slowing down by one step compared to the pace of change can have massive consequences. It could genuinely cost you what amounts to a 5 or 10-year financial cycle's worth of progress if you fall behind.
So delay isn't just a personal inconvenience anymore, it's potentially economic suicide.
That might sound dramatic, but in some fields, the cost of not adapting, not learning, not acting quickly on opportunities is becoming exponential. The cost of standing still is higher than ever.
Can you reiterate that concept of the cost of delayed opportunity? How does that loss compound silently but devastatingly?
It really is the silent killer of wealth and career advancement. The loss isn't just the immediate money you didn't earn today by not launching that product or service. That's only part of it.
What's the bigger part?
It's the missed opportunity to gain the experience from that launch, to build the network that came from it, to reinvest the capital it generated, or to acquire the critical high-demand skill you would have learned by doing it today.
Yeah.
All of those things would have compounded over the next 3, 5, 10 years.
So by not starting that side project now,
You don't just lose the potential income for this year, you lose the chance for potential 10x growth 5 years down the line that could only have happened if you started now. Delay is like taking out a high-interest loan against your future potential. The interest compounds silently and massively against you.
that really shifts the mental framework. Delay isn't free. It's incredibly expensive.
Incredibly.
Okay, final reflection question based on these reframes. If you truly replace perfection with practice, if you allowed yourself to be imperfect but just keep moving forward, what specific area of your life right now would suddenly feel lighter, less burdened?
You imagine lifting that weight of, it has to be perfect. What opens up? That lightness, that release of pressure is often exactly what's needed to sustain the effort required to fundamentally restructure these deep-seated behavioral systems.
Absolutely. Okay, we've covered the psychology, the environment, the multi-tiered tools, the crucial reframes. Now it's time for action. We want to challenge you right now to take immediate, non-negotiable action based on what we've discussed.
Yes, we invite you to participate in a micro-challenge, starting the moment this deep dive finishes. Don't delay.
Step 1. Pick one delayed task, something you've been avoiding. It could be really tiny, like sending that one awkward email, or maybe organizing just one pile of papers on your desk. Just pick one thing.
Step 2. Write down the absolute next visible step for that task. Remember, make it painfully simple, something that genuinely takes less than 2 minutes to complete, like open email app or pick up first piece of paper.
And step 3. Commit right now. Make the decision that you will do that simple 2-minute action the instant this episode ends. Don't let System 1 whisper excuses. Engage System 2 immediately with that small, non-negotiable step.
Just 2 minutes. Prove to yourself you can start.
And to leave you with one final thought to mull over as you take that action. Consider that procrastination in its deepest sense might be the ultimate form of self-abandonment. It's severing your connection to your own potential, to your most meaningful opportunities, to future prosperity.
But the good news is you can rebuild that connection. By reconnecting action, even tiny 2-minute actions to your deepest values and your vision for the future, you start to rebuild that fundamental faith in your own self-efficacy, step by step.
Remember, you are not defined by your past patterns of delay. You are defined by the very next action you choose to take.
So start small, but please start immediately.
That's today's conversation on the Bookcast Story Show. We're Sam.
And Lily, thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive.
If this sparked some ideas or maybe motivated you to take that 2-minute action, please like this video and subscribe so you won't miss the next chapter in our explorations.
Until next time, take care and keep exploring.